Coming up is a woman named Heather Wood. Heather Wood is the founder of Stupendous Love. What is Stupendous Love? I have a feeling that we're going to discuss what it is. What brought her to want to name her company Stupendous Love? Where is she from? What has she gone through? Um, I believe you're going to enjoy this conversation with Heather Wood. Picture this. It's Monday morning. Your calendar is full. Your team needs all sorts of answers. But before you know it, you're spending the entire week reacting instead of actually leading. And that's where InterraWorks comes in. InterraWorks helps leaders become better, more intentional leaders through tools like Effective Edge and Best Year Yet. Because great leadership doesn't happen by accident. It starts with being intentional with how you lead yourself and the people around you by being intentional with your word, your conversation, and your relationships. I'm proud to have InterraWorks as a longtime supporter and sponsor of my Servant Leadership podcast. The people there from the top, Lori, Annie, Kathy, all of them, I know that you're going to enjoy working with them. And I honestly believe they're going to add value to you, your team, and your organization. And I encourage you to check them out at interraworks.com. Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden. Today I have a special guest from upstate New York. We're going to get to know Heather Wood very well over the next 30 plus or minus minutes. But I do want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for being my audience. Thank you for trusting me and the guests I bring on to our show so everyone can grow in the spirit of servant leadership. Speaking of servant leadership, Heather, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
Great, great. I already spilled the beans and said where we're coming from or where you're coming from, but tell us a little bit about who you are and go as deep as you want, as long back as you want, and then end up telling us, what's your why? What do you and I know you probably get that asked. You get
Yeah.
asked that quite a bit, but go ahead.
So I am currently in upstate New York, Syracuse, specifically. I grew up in central New York, about an hour east of here, and I've lived in Syracuse for about the past 20 years, where most of my life has existed, both personally and professionally. I spent the majority of my career in the financial services industry. I held a lot of different roles, and most of those roles dealt with people, whether it was
Yeah.
leading people, whether it was working with customers or members. It was very people oriented. Um, Shortly into my career, I became a parent, and that brings a whole new dynamic. And
Amen.
yeah, and so raising a child, being in environments where there's other children and parents, I got to see a lot of how servant leadership and love and my now new company, Stupendous Love, really makes sense.
Mm.
Um, I recently stepped away from what has been my career for over 20 years in financial services to start a company called Stupendous Love. It is based on the life and legacy of my daughter, who passed away very tragically in 2023. It is shared pretty publicly, definitely locally here, but nationally and internationally as well. Pretty shocking story, and that's entirely up to you if you want to share it. But
Well,
really, what became the spirit of my daughter is now my mission in life, and really bridging that. I don't know if bridging the gap, but really keeping servant leadership top of mind in professional settings, in organizations, sports settings. My daughter was an athlete, and in people's personal lives. I just think there's this real special thing in servant leadership and empathy that is really lost in the chaos of today. So that's where we are.
Amen. And thank you for being open and absolutely I want to talk about anything that's really important to you, Heather.
Sure.
That's what we do here. But I want to take me back when because you said it so quickly.
Mhm.
Then all of a sudden you became a parent. Tell us
Yeah.
about those days when you found out you were going to be a mom.
Sure. Um, in having my daughter, it was intentional, and purposeful. And leaving my 20s and entering my 30s, I became a parent right about the same time that my career really started to solidify and have more direction and more intention, and perhaps was on this upward trajectory.
Sure.
So it was a really interesting dynamic and experience to move into more formalized leadership roles professionally at the same time I was becoming a parent.
Right.
So very exciting, very nerve wracking a little bit, full of opportunity, full of unknowns. There's so much to learn, right? So I entered both of those experience parenthood and the early stages of management and leadership with the mindset of I'm so excited. I can't wait to give back. And also I have so much to learn.
Yeah. So you were with the credit union 23 plus years, right?
Correct.
And so you
Correct.
said, and you can see on your LinkedIn, you had several roles. And as you mentioned, you were stepping into management and leadership and
Mhm.
at the same time become a mom. Were you, did you have a partner or are you still with the partner or are you?
I did have a partner. We actually both worked in financial services. It was a great experience. However, over the course of time,
Mhm.
he had some challenges in life, and inevitably, over the course of our relationship, over 15, 20 years, his mental health ultimately got the better of him.
Sure.
And the tragic loss of my daughter was a product of a murder suicide. So my husband took my daughter's life before then taking his own.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it is very tragic, obviously upsetting and very stunning for people to hear. I still, it's an odd thing to say out loud. My most uncomfortable point with it is I know it's very shocking, and how do you act or react to it? However, I can say I've learned so much. I've experienced so much. I'm in a really good, healthy place, and incredibly grateful for the life that I had prior to this tragedy. And it really has, um, changed my life in so many ways, but also given me so much more clarity with empathy, with happiness, with joy, with freedom than I ever could have realized in the thick of it. So, did I have a partner? Yes. But that all changed with this tragedy in 2023.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And but yet I can imagine. My former wife and I, Laura, adopted a little guy from Russia and brought him home in December 1st of 2010, and then we ended up getting pregnant. So at 48 years old, I became a single man to a married and dad with two kids. And he was my uh, other son was born the following June. And unfortunately, 3 years ago, May 5th, Sam took his life.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
So,
sorry.
so I can understand. Was it tragic? Yes. Were we all unaware? Not really. A lot of times really protecting him, one house or the other.
Mhm.
Um, Not seeing signs of wanting to hurt himself, but knowing mental health was certainly prevalent, and we were all surrounding him best we can without, you can't bubble wrap him, you can't watch him 24/7. So yes, I can understand the loss. I cannot understand, although there have been several incidents of men behaving the way that your
Yeah,
past partner, and it's in the news. And as Tammy, my current spouse of 5 years plus now, we look at each other and say, What must they have been thinking?" And I I don't know. And so for that, I say I apologize for men being unresponsible and all the other adjectives that you can imagine. And if it's truly mental health, then he them don't know what they're really doing, God,
Yeah.
hurt yourself, but don't take a young person's
Yeah.
life with you.
Very, very complicated. I don't want
Mm,
to say I understand it. And I'm careful to say I understand it because it somewhat invites, I guess, perceptions that I understand it and it was okay or it makes sense. I understand it to some extent. Men's mental health, I think, is becoming a more common conversation and a more
yeah,
comfortable conversation over the last couple of years. It's still a very taboo thing, and I think I see it in young men, right?
yeah,
Young children, and I see it, in older men as well. And that's not necessarily what this is about, but as we're on
right.
this topic and subject, um, it's really something. And I think that with servant leadership and empathy, it's a really different. It's a different and often uh, misunderstood, I think, leadership style where we have to be soft and we can't be strong eh, and so on. And I think sometimes, I see it more now, but I saw it through the lens of, having my husband as my partner and watching him struggle and in seeing it in struggles and not as many outlets for men to feel comfortable or be in that arena to have those conversations or to have. It's not that they don't have the resources available, they just don't. It's just not as obvious as it is for, we'll say, everyone else, whatever everyone else is, children, women,
Oh,
etc.
oh, it's and let's be clear, both of us, because you
Mhm,
know my background.
mhm,
Maybe you don't, but like you, corporate blah blah blah. 14
mhm.
years ago, I started Aiden Leadership, and I selected servant leadership because it's not soft, because
Mhm,
it's right there. Serve before lead, parent
mhm.
before lead. And men, especially, they shy away from what I offer because I'm going to figure out what's going on. And they
Yeah,
might have to be, you ready? Vulnerable,
yeah,
open, willing to share what the hell's going on inside.
yeah.
And let's just also be clear, I'm not a therapist, and I don't believe
Mhm.
you are either. You're probably a
Correct.
certified leadership coach like I am. And I help people find out what it is they want. And if you need to get rid of stuff so you can get what you want, great. Let's talk about the stuff. And again, this isn't the place to
Yeah,
unravel all of it, all of
yeah.
what you've been through. But I also now understand more why you would want to gravitate to something as stupendous, if you will, as
Mhm.
servant leadership, because
Yeah,
a lot of people, Heather, don't even know what it is. And when they do, oh, servant, you must be a babysitter. No.
right.
Back in the early
Yeah.
70s, Robert Greenleaf made this something to be very proud of. And by the way, don't know and don't really
Mhm.
care what your religious beliefs are. There was this guy named Jesus, and he was a pretty good leader.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm pretty set in saying to the world that servant leadership is anything but soft. So tell us about the
yeah.
new person in your life, and then let's jump into how did you come up with the name, and what are you really doing to serve the world?
Not so much new person in my life, but just what my life is and what it's becoming. And when this happened, the loss of my daughter really took the world by storm. And that sounds a little pretentious, like, wow, my daughter's, this big personality and worldwide. But it's something that still today, when I talk about it and when I share these stories and these examples, I still almost feel like I'm talking about someone else, someone I read about, someone that someone told me about this person, and I'm sharing this, and it's my daughter. It's almost like this weird out of body experience. But I knew her so well and so intimately.
Sure.
I would like to believe we had that kind of relationship. And I tried to raise her to be a good person, as I suspect most parents do. And it was really important to me that she understand in raising her. And you said something that caught my ear, that in servant leadership and what you teach is you help people discover who they want to be and what they're capable of, right? Which I think is such a important and unique and vital piece of leadership, especially servant leadership, because we tend to, as leaders or like organizations, like throw people in boxes. I hired you for this job. This is what this job entails, and you're in this box. And I never really found that valuable in my leadership, not people that led me, but in the people that I led, because we are who we are, and I might not want to do something forever, and I might want to do other things. And the best leaders I've ever had embraced that and supported me and helped me find that way. And and I found that my team worked better together. The team found work more enjoyable, and they individually found more satisfaction in their work when I didn't force them to be someone they weren't or to put them in a box, but to help them realize and uncover what did they like about their jobs, what did they not, who are they, what are the things in life that set them on fire, so on and so forth. And I found that to be pretty successful in the business world. But that being said, I also raised my daughter that way, right? I tried to do a lot of the same things that most parents do, but I was very, very intentional, to the point where I would say the words, whatever you want to do, whoever you want to be, as long as you're happy, healthy, safe, right?
Yeah.
Those things. I will support you. I will encourage you. I will make recommendations. I might say sometimes, hey, you should do this. But I hope you know it comes with love. I want you to have the experience. I want you to try different things in life. I want you to get to know yourself and what sets you on fire. I don't want to make those choices for you. I know growing up, I was very independent and I like to make my own choices. Even when someone gave me or told me what to do, and it was something that I enjoyed or something I was interested in, it almost was a turnoff when someone told me what to do, because I wanted to make that choice myself. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to raise my daughter that way, where she had choice and where she could really get to know herself intimately and the things that she loved, so that I could support her in that. So there was a lot of similarities and a lot of parallels in the way I parented, as well as the way that I led as a leader or a manager.
Absolutely. And thank you for being consistent. So, Heather, what I heard you say when you were talking specifically about being a leader and having leadership responsibilities, you didn't use the word, but you were obviously being curious. You were authentically curious about what the people that you are serving wanted to do or needed to do, regardless of who they are and what where they came from. Because in not putting them in a box, and if someone puts someone in a box, it typically means that I don't really care. Do your job. This is the title. And what else do you want to talk about? And that's
Yeah.
obviously not leadership either. And then parenting, being consistent with how you show up at work. What a novel idea. Because a lot of people are really wonderful at work, and then they come home and they're a dick, or fill up another adjective, or
Yeah.
they're really wonderful at home and they go to work and they're somebody else. And I never understood that. And there's a lot of very um, confident and wonderfully paid human beings. And God bless you.
Mhm.
And you'll never be on my show, and you'll never hire me. I know that because you know everything. And there's a word for those kind of people too. But I'm curious as to how do you see and what do you recommend in your world of how people can be more consistent at home and at work? Because there's a disconnect between the time they get home and they still think they're at work and they believe they're being present, and Johnny and Susie and the spouse say, Mm-mm, you're not here at all. So, but our spouses sometimes don't challenge us because they love the life that this person is providing for them. Again, man or woman, and the kids are, wow, I love all the wonderful vacations we go on, but dad, or mom, I just want you to be here when you're here. So
Yeah.
how do you help people understand the importance of being consistent at work and at home and making some sort of transition, Heather, from garage to garage door or front door when you come in,
Mhm.
put your phone. I don't want to fill up your answer, but
Sure.
how do you coach consistency?
I think it's really important. And I always encourage people in my life when whatever our relationship is, whether it is a colleague, whether it is someone that works for me and they're on my team, whether, take time to be aware of what they love, what gives them energy, what sucks away their energy, what they put their attention towards, and so on. We know life, work, not always easy. Sometimes it
Hmm.
challenges us and sometimes it pushes us to be someone we're not unintentionally. And often I find in those cases we build up um, unintentional resentment or anger or frustration. And we're going from one place to the other, home to work or work to home.
Hmm.
I've always had a personal policy with whomever's in my life, but definitely at work with people that are on my team, that things aren't always going to be good. You are going to be angry about things, you're going to be frustrated about things, and you come to me and you vent because I find often once we get something off our chest, things aren't better, they're not fixed, but a lot of the pressure is gone, a lot of the weight of that is gone, and sometimes it gives us space to think a little more clearly and to make space for happiness, relief, and like clear the deck for whatever's next. So in the workplace, I was very honest and transparent about that. I would tell my team, right, just let's be respectful, but I want you to come to me when you need help, you need all of these things. I'm like, but when you are at your breaking point or when you are frustrated or when you just have something going on, I don't care if it's work related, I don't care if it's specific project related, I don't care if it's home, you come to me. You tell me as much as you want, as little as you want. I'm like, but you come to me. If you need to swear, if you need to be angry, if you need to do whatever, you need an outlet and I will be that outlet. I'm like, we will do it with like uh, honesty and respect for one another in our roles and what the point and purpose of that is, with the agreement that when that's done, we need to move forward in some respect, or we need to have a plan of what needs to happen afterwards. But I will be that person. In my
Uh,
personal life and in family, I would do the same thing. And with my daughter, same thing. I want you to come to me. Kids are kids, especially as she grew into the world of being a teenager. I would have the same conversation with her, acknowledging for her as well. And I would sometimes tell my team this as well. Maybe I'm not like, I want to be your person, but I also understand what life was like when I was a teenager. And I didn't always want to talk to my parents about things. I wanted to talk
mhm.
to somebody else. I need you to know that in your life, you need to have someone. It can be a friend, it can be a friend's parent, it can be one of your aunts or uncles, it can be a grandparent. But I want to make sure you need to have someone in your life to talk to for for whatever reason, or multiple people for that
Right.
reason. It will make your life better and it will make your life more enjoyable, and the things that you love will be better because you're not bottling everything up, because you have an outlet, because you have a sounding board. So that proved to be pretty successful for me.
Well, and what you're describing is an opportunity for not only people to blow off steam, but not keep it all bottled up. Because we all know when pressure in a bottle gets to a
Yeah.
certain point, the lid uh, blows off,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, James is the idiot for being
Mhm.
making a scene in the organization, but that's also might be because James never felt safe or had an outlet or
Yeah.
didn't have a leader. He had a manager, boss, or supervisor telling him, suck it up,
Mhm.
when I was your age and all
Yeah.
this stuff. And again, I'm not suggesting leaders at work should be counselors or therapists, but I do believe
I would agree.
if you have regular one-on-one meetings with people who are your direct reports, then that's an opportunity to say anything else you want to share. Is there anything you would like me to do differently? Now, again, leader, you're not asking them to tell you what to do. You're asking them to share with you what it is you could do as a human being to be a better human being. Oh, by the way, be a better leader. Is that soft? No. Because if Ricky and Jim and Sally and Betty all blow up because you're not available or you're not listening, and by the way, you might have heard this acronym. made famous by someone here in Boulder, but it's called Shuva. And she believes that everybody wants or needs a little bit of all of this. And Shuva is an acronym that stands for we want to be seen, the S, the H is heard, U is understood, V is valued, and A is appreciated. And I say that on my podcast every so often, but I recognize too that it's just a little something as a leader. If you had just that acronym somewhere on your desk or somewhere in your heart, and you start judging somebody, by the way, this works at home as well. Here comes the judge to say, I wonder what Heather needs. I wonder what Heather wants. She doesn't have the courage or the strength to ask. So why don't I be the bigger person in the room and say to myself, I think Heather wants to be seen and heard right now. And I know she feels valued, but does she feel appreciated? And just those 5 little words help us as servant leaders be better without having to come across as uh, kind of descriptive or prescriptive, I should say, relative to how you approach. Because every human being, in my humble opinion, wants to be heard and they have needs, but they are afraid. So,
Yeah.
leaders, if you're listening, Heather, you've seemed to have made the jump out of a great corporate position with a great credit union, I'm assuming, to now something you love and you've been doing it almost a year now. I guess
Mm-hmm.
maybe a year in November. What do you love most about what you do today? And tell us some of the people, by the way, along the way, maybe after credit union, during credit
Yeah.
union, or today, that you can give special thanks to help Heather Wood become Heather Wood today.
A year into it, I think one of my favorite things about all of the experiences with Stupendous Love has been connection. And that was something Ava was known for. She connected with people so deeply, so instantaneously, and with such uniqueness to that one-on-one relationship. It's something I've never seen in my life. It was um, unbelievable and truly a gift.
Yeah.
And it brought people together. It made people, right, the Shiva, right, what you said, right, seen, heard, understood, valued, and appreciated. I received a lot of messages, a lot of phone calls. I had a lot of conversations after she passed about a lot of things she did in private and in secret. It all related to those things. Like, hey, I don't
Mm.
know if anyone ever told you this, but your daughter did this one day and it changed my life, which is a wild
Yeah.
something to be so proud of as a parent. But I had no idea. And it's just something she did as just a natural like leader and a lover of people and connecting people and bringing people into the fold, right? New kid on a soccer team or new athlete or someone new to the school. She just gravitated towards them. And in this chapter of Stupendous Love, um, one of the things I've thoroughly enjoyed is that connection, connecting other people together, but really having a conversation with one person who's connected me to have a conversation with another person. And I'm learning ways in which Stupendous Love can impact and affect more people. Again, we're still, or Stupendous Love, still really new and in its infancy and really finding its direction. The people, the groups, the organizations it will help the most. Um, but really bringing those people together, having connections, having shared experiences, I think really helps bring people together and makes whatever comes next more pleasant, makes whatever
Yeah.
comes next easier. Shared experiences, connection, building relationships really has been a differentiator for me. There's a small piece of that kind of disappeared or went into hiding in probably the latter part of my career, and nothing to do with my employer, but more of the complexities of my personal life, as
Yeah.
one might imagine rightly, if the final
Yeah.
act of how my family ultimately ended, right? You would have to assume there's some things in the background. And so a lot of those making connections and learning how I can give back more meaningfully to people in whatever my life was then really went away. And it's very rewarding to me to watch people make those connections or have experiences similar to what my daughter had. And I want to be that person for other people. I want Stupendous Love to be that for other people. Let's all get together for a good cause, but let's have a fun time doing it. Let's make it fun and not necessarily feel like charity or philanthropy or fundraising, or let's build a profit. Let's do things together to make an impact. Let's pause for a moment and acknowledge that life is hard, work is hard.
Mm,
We all have those
yeah.
things. We're going to struggle, where life is going to throw some real curveballs our way. But let's be connected. Let's have relationships, but also let's acknowledge that in those hardships, there's so much goodness in life to still be
Hmm.
grateful for. And being able to identify the good and the gifts in your life and the possibilities and opportunities that life still has to offer, in what I call the messy middle of life, that is something I also hope to get out in Stupendous Love, like with connections and events and sharing my story, because life is so much more fulfilling. Everything you do after, when you recognize that despite some real hard challenges, I've been very blessed to have had different things in life, but I can pause and say, okay, you know what? In the early years of my life, a couple of things I wanted. I wanted to have a home. I wanted my home to be a home where people wanted to come. I wanted to have a husband. I wanted to have a daughter, and I got to have all of those things. How long I had them in the ending, not at all what anyone could have possibly imagined. But I was fortunate enough to have all of those things come true. And so now what does life have to offer me, and what's available now? And can I appreciate things more largely in the moment than in hindsight? So all of those things kind of coming together, creating just this big love, being willing to make sure I'm good, healthy, have self-love so I can give that back to others.
Yeah, and you are behaving it, which is wonderful. And back to what happened, as you know, I don't know what your belief is.
Mhm.
It's not our plan. We're here walking the
Yeah.
earth as human beings, some of us more beautiful and rich and professional and
Yeah.
better athletes than others. Great, I got it. Meanwhile, what are you going to be remembered for? And I want to go back to something you said about Ava, and Sam had these same qualities. it, she was doing things for other people, being kind and being appreciative, etc. And she didn't come home and say, "Guess what I did? Guess what I did? Notice me, notice me, notice me."
Yeah.
And that's because that's who Ava was.
Yeah.
And Sam had some of the same qualities, and especially at school, it's amazing the similarities. And I don't know how I think I just invited you to be on my servant leadership podcast, and you could have
Yeah.
said, F you, I'm not interested. Or I'll take a flyer because this
Yeah.
guy seems like he's interesting, or at least servant leadership matched up. And so and then the second piece, connection. I believe connections are connections. But to your words, what's the purpose? What's the depth of the connection? What are we really going to do with this connection?
Yeah.
Because you can be connected to 20,000 people, but who are you really working with so you can make a difference? And by the way, not everybody really wants to make a difference. And, I'm
And
63.
that's okay.
It's
Yeah.
fine. I,
That's
I,
okay.
I just know that being kind and considerate, and I married someone who literally gave me the recipe of what empathy is. And I really wasn't as empathetic as I could have been until I married Tammy. I knew what humble was. I knew having humility was good, but I didn't realize the value of being empathetic,
Yeah.
really wanting to, not needing to. And I say this a lot to my clients. You don't need to understand where someone else is coming from. The sexy part of it, or the powerful
Mhm.
part, is, do you want to? Do you
Yeah.
really want to know what's going on in Heather's life? or are you just being inquisitive? And again, that's fine too. But if you really want to serve another human being, empathy and curiosity are certainly two of my what I believe are leadership superpowers.
I would agree. I think there's
So
a tangible aspect to the authenticity of people's connection.
yeah,
Is it disingenuous or is it genuine and unconditional?
well, the latter is more valuable,
I would
and
agree.
it takes time to nurture a valuable relationship. Are you willing to make time? And I mean make time, not take time. And again, I'm very specific on the words and the tone and the timing of conversation. In fact, my courageous conversations is all about that. And what are you going to let go of? What are you going to start doing, and why?
Mhm.
So that's my last question for you. What do you want us to take away from this podcast as to how others listening to this might say, wow, Heather's someone I want to connect with because, and who would you like to reach out to, and how may I help? That's
Oh, wow. What do we want people to take away? That in the messy middle of life, being true and authentic to who you are, being kind will change everything about your life. It will make life seamless. There will be less this is work, this is who I am at work, and this is who I am in my personal life, or this is who I am at school, and this is who I am at home. Knowing who you are and being authentic, and then taking that and loving yourself for it, and then sharing yourself with others, right? That connection and giving back is really what matters and will make your life more fulfilling, will make work, sports, like your those pursuits that are sometimes long term or harder and more difficult, it will make them more pleasurable. It will give you more purpose. So, really sharing stories, having connections, being authentic, and really sharing who you are with who matters. And you have to figure out who matters, right? You can't give yourself to everyone. Um, really, it's going to be such a big differentiator in the rest of your life if you can put some of those things in play. Do work on a little bit of those every single day.
and what I didn't hear is make it all about me. Make it all about you. And because I believe right now there is such a me out there,
Yes.
and it's honestly it's sickening. And I
Yes.
realize there's a lot of beautiful people with a lot of beautiful ideas, and I would listen to you more if it wasn't always about you.
Yeah.
And leadership will never be about you. And I'll say this as clear as I can. Leadership starts with you. Be the best version of yourself. Provide Shiva, serve other people. But what do you really want to be seen as?
Yeah.
Yes, it starts with you, but then quickly, it's not about you. You decided to have kids, you decided not to have kids, you have a job, you have clients. You don't have people who serve you. You're the people that report to you
Yeah.
are your clients, but we don't, it's all
Yeah.
about me because I've arrived at this chief this or chief that. And
Yeah.
I say often, and maybe you already know this, Heather, but the one of the most valuable experiences I had when I left IHG and had to pull my head out of my ass to realize who do I want to be. And I did a lot
Mhm.
of work on Greg Aden, please know that. And the one place I visited in Northern California, we literally visited graveyards. And the purpose was to see what kind of grave would you want to, what kind of speaks to you and why. And same with your mom, same with your dad. But I also realized during that experience, I didn't see chief financial officer, senior vice president, CEO of the world, or president this
Yeah.
or president that. I did see sergeant and colonel and lieutenant and major, and obviously those titles they deserve.
Hmm.
We will never take our title to the grave. And I
Yeah.
just want everyone to hear that for probably the 40th time on this podcast, because at the
That
end of
is
the
true.
day, are you behaving a way that you want to be remembered? And
Yes.
and if you do something kind and you happen to die the next day, It's going to be a lot better than yelling at your spouse and kids or your coworker, and then you get hit by a car and you never had a chance to not be a dick.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's that you just described that was Ava and everything that inspired Stupendous Love afterwards. Um, and I carry that forward because I think there's a desire for people to be like her, myself included, in that I'm much more introverted and comfortable behind the scenes. And I enjoy leading, but I enjoy leading kind of behind the scenes. It doesn't need to be me. This incident, I was a very private person and had a very small social media presence, very small, prior to this happening. And when this happened, because of my daughter's impact and because of how many people she touched, it really just opened the floodgates and I've become much more public. And it's a very uncomfortable place in many respects. And it just feels because I like to be behind the scenes and I don't want it to be about me. That's it's an uncomfortable thing, but I'm not for everybody, but I want to be the type of person that people, and I say people very large and generically, want in their lives because I add value in some way. And hopefully it's adding value because I'm kind, or I can share something that adds value to their life, or I can teach them a new skill, or I can help them work through a problem, or I can be, the friend that gives them a hug, or right, someone that found something really unique when I was traveling and it reminded me of them, right? I want to be someone that people want in their lives because I add value
Amen.
and it's some version of love, whatever that means.
And by the way, again, I hate to be so pointed here, but why would we want people in our lives that don't add value?
That's a great question. It's so
Because because if
rhetorical because it seems like such an obvious answer, but not. But as humans, often we invite people into our lives that don't align with that, and it causes chaos, right?
yeah, well, the chaos, upheaval,
Yeah,
strife. I mean,
yeah,
for Christ's sakes, my mom and my sister behaved her way out of that relationship, and I won't go into it.
yeah,
And because honestly, my stepdad and my mom basically said, we don't enjoy her being here because she's so mean and bossy and brings the dog and has to, walk in and smell like smoke. And whatever their
yeah,
reasons are, the value of that relationship had run its course.
yeah,
Now, some people hearing them, they say, "Oh, I can't believe it. Your mom kicked her." No, no, she didn't kick her out. My sister behaved her way out of the relationship. And I'm looking here now. I meant to ask you earlier. I love the clarity, connection, courage, and be clear as to what you want from another human being. Because I can ask Heather, will you support this podcast? Will you do this? Will you support servant leadership? And you can say one of two things: yes, I will, or no, I won't. And by the way, every time, ladies and gentlemen, and them, if when you ask somebody for something, they have an opportunity to agree or not agree, and both of them should be fine. And if they say no, not right now, that means come back later and ask maybe the same question a different way. But when they say yes, then please do what you said you were going to do. And those agreements are so critical. And if you haven't looked up Steve Chandler, by the way, as a young new consultant or whatever, I implore you to listen to his audio about the difference between expectations and agreements. Expectations is when a boss or supervisor or whatever points at you and then tells you what to do, and all you do is basically smile and nod your head. That's not an agreement, nor should that leader think that you're actually going to do that. I will or I won't is an agreement. And again, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's something that I believe more people should think about when they're asking our spouse or our kids, or even
sure.
when you say yes. Anyway, maybe a little tangent there, but how
Understood.
yeah. So how would you like to leave this audience? What would you want them to walk away with? One final comment.
Sure that love isn't just in emotion, it's a practice. And Stupendous Love. I chose stupendous because it's an unusual word. And it's, to me, stupendous is bigger than big. And it being based on the life of my daughter, who was one of a kind, larger than life, and it just seeped love everywhere in every form or fashion. Love is a practice that changes how we lead, how we live, how we respond to difficult and challenging situations. And I know that we think of love often more in our personal relationships, but love really belongs everywhere. And it's
Yeah.
not just this warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a sense of respect. It's a sense of connection, and it makes every piece of our lives better.
Yeah. And rest assured, love is a practice. That might be the title of this podcast, if nothing else. Um, it's a possibility for the title, and you can weigh in as you wish. I also know that you play like you practice. Athletes, leaders, you just don't walk up on stage and wing it. Maybe you do, but most of us don't. We practice, and I love that phrase, love is a practice. There's a reason you and I are here today.
I firmly believe that. I have said for a long time before this tragedy, but very, very firmly after that, there are no coincidences in life.
Mhm.
And, I think hindsight is a gift sometimes, in general, but there have been a lot of hindsight gifts and no coincidences. And every person that has come into my life for a minute or is still here, um, everything that has happened to me I'm quite certain, has always been meant to happen and for a reason. And I can ascertain what some of those are, and some that's not for me to question, but I am incredibly um, appreciative of even the challenges because they help prepare me
Amen.
for the
Yeah.
future. And I'm trying to be more present than I've ever been now, because what if today's my last day? Um, I can say, I want to recognize the gifts that I'm gifted, even the hardships, now more in the present than in hindsight. Hindsight will always exist, but I want to recognize them more in the present.
Yeah. Yeah, I could talk all day about hindsight and things
Yeah.
that have happened in our past, and now they're a reason, and you
Mhm.
didn't know it then or didn't appreciate it then. It's
Yeah.
again, not to get religious on us,
Mhm.
because I'm really not that
Mhm.
religious. I just realize we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
So make the best of why you're here, and maybe somebody will be talking about you at some point, and maybe they won't.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you live your life to be popular, you're wasting a great opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a million reasons that I should not still be here today, that I couldn't even have this conversation, but I am. And I don't take that for granted. And I'm very intentional about what my purpose and skills and talents are, and to really apply those for however long the rest of my life lasts.
Well, I'm certainly glad Greg Aden had a chance to get to know you for 45 minutes, and I
Thank you.
know this won't be the last time we communicate.
Fantastic.
And
I'd love to connect again.
yeah, and just know you've got a friend. Anything regarding servant leadership, then I can help you out as a coach that's been doing this for 14 years now. And anything that I might help you with when you're raising funds or you need another speaker, reach out. I'm
I
here.
will. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Heather. I'll let you go. Well, that was one of my favorites, not only because it had similarities to a loss of mine with Sam, as many of you know, took his life 3 years ago. This young lady had her world rocked by a sudden tragedy that not only cost her the life of her daughter, but the life of her then husband, and how it changed the world. If stupendous love doesn't ring a bell, or you don't like the word stupendous, maybe you like great or wonderful or big, beautiful or big, whatever adjective you want. What stood out for me at the end there was love is a practice. And you know me and my love for Coach Saban, you play like you practice. Well, what happens if we made love a practice? What if we were kinder and more servant leadership like? Again, not telling you to make a drastic change, but some of the things we talked about was the deep connection, the connection with purpose and giving back. And what she said about there's so much authenticity in the messy middle, as she called it. Um, just a really neat human being. And again, you can't make it up. The reason we were connected, and this connection has purpose. And as I told Heather, anything that she needs, I will help her with relative to servant leadership and helping others become better leaders. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Again, thank you, InterraWorks, for being my partner. And to everyone, I say, go out and think about being more. Let me say this again. Think about love as a practice. What might it do, and how might it change your world? At least maybe a few relationships.